So ladies and gentlemen, it's not just an important thing to figure out what kind of leads you're going to use selling final expense or any other insurance product. You also need to figure out the management process as well to not only get yourself in front of the best prospects one time, but sustainably over the course of your entire career. And this particular training is dedicated to giving you some advice and direction on how to develop an advanced management process that will help you stay consistent in the execution of your insurance sales business as an agent. My name is David DeFord. I own DeFord Insurance Group. You can learn more about how we train agents to succeed selling final expense over the phone or in person using our unique one-on-one mentorship model at daviddeford.com. And if you would like to get access, exclusive access, as people are watching right now live, we do these videos obviously before they're on YouTube. And if you'd like to get access as well to scripts, hours upon hours of great training in final expense, Medicare, annuities, and ACA, head over to our insurance sales success training page. You can go to daviddeford.com/ISS to sign up for free. I don't even charge for the thing. You should definitely check it out if you haven't already. Okay, so let's jump right into this. Again, the whole purpose of this training today really was inspired by some challenges that we've had in our agency over off and on with some agents in DeFord Insurance Group. Agents who write good business, but had weeks where they wouldn't write good business. And so my trainer, David Heath, and I got together and started having a conversation about it. And it was obvious to me that I wasn't doing a sufficient enough job to explain not just what kind of leads are good to work, but equally, if not more important, the management process the agent needs to take responsibility of to ensure that they sustainably have good prospects to speak to every single week. So again, if you're selling final expense, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is related directly to that, but even any other insurance product, what we're going to talk about are just fundamental principles of things and processes you should follow to stay as busy as possible, whatever it is that you're selling. So the way I'm going to frame, I've got 4 different notes here on, I think, that demonstrate some of the issues that we ran into. So I'm going to frame them as things that people do wrong, give you an example, and then explain what the right way to do it, which is the fundamental process orientation that we're trying to achieve with today's training. So first of all, probably the biggest mistake that I see agents make when it comes to managing their leads is they react in the moment to when they need leads and then buy. So for example, you go out and you mail drop, let's say whatever, right? So many direct mail leads, or you buy leads on Facebook and you work those leads and you work them and you work them and you're finally down to the last several left. And now you go reach for the smartphone or pick up the phone and order more leads at that point. Or perhaps you're cold calling, or perhaps you're using a referral-based system. You react to the fact that you're out of people to talk to then go find people to talk to. This is the exact opposite of what you need to do. You always need to have more people than you can handle. In other words, you don't want to be in any position in your career to sell insurance where you wake up and you have no leads, referrals, prospects, or names to talk about the product you're hopefully going to sell them. If you have dead space in your day-to-day activities where there's nothing you're doing to move or progress the ball down the field, figuratively speaking, to get the goal to close the deal, you are losing your opportunity to make it in this business and will find yourself more often than not failing out of the business. So what do you do instead? You be proactive, right? We talk about things in life to be proactive about. You got to be proactive about saving your money so you can retire comfortably. You can't just wake up at 64 and say, I'm broke. Let me figure this retirement thing out. You know, I mean, I guess you could, but that wouldn't be good. We want to be proactive about things, right? We want to be in a position where we can avoid unnecessary stress and unnecessary problems. And when it comes to leads, what you have to understand is that even if you don't need leads immediately at the moment, you need to think about leads as a regular, consistent method of purchase than something that you buy here and there. So a couple of examples for me that worked. First of all, the nice thing about direct mail, and this would be exclusively if you're working final expense with us, or maybe in your another line, sometimes mortgage protection, you still get direct mail, Medicare to an extent too as well. You want to set up a weekly recurring lead order, because what that does is it automates the purchase process. Every Thursday, Friday, whatever that day is, I would have an order automatically tagged to my credit card for a set amount of leads. And I wouldn't have to go worry about, did I get my order in? Did I miss the deadline? Do I really want to order because, boy, I had a bad week? I didn't have as much obstacles in the way to make the decision to invest again the following week and then on a continuously weekly basis, because everything was set up on an automated basis. And even when things are going great or I got behind on a vacation, I still ordered leads. I still had prospects to see, and I was in abundance. I was awash. I was buried in leads, because I always tried to give myself the best problem to see, which is too many people to see, or best problem to have, which is too many people to see. So what's the moral of the story here? As you start to buy leads, whether you're brand new to the business, or even if you're getting started and you're struggling, ask yourself, am I consistently ordering leads every week? Is there a time on my calendar I sit down every week and buy more leads? Or better yet, can I set up an automatic subscription basis to recur a draft against my card, my account, my whatever, so I always know that consistently I'll have leads, and maybe even more leads than I need? Because leads are the lifeblood of your business. If you don't have prospects to see and people to talk to, you're toast. And even if you're not buying leads, when you find a prospect to talk to, you don't want to, let's say, cold calling or referral generating. That doesn't mean you stop cold calling and referral generating. You certainly work that lead that you get, but you have to set time to continuously fill the hopper of opportunities to close new business with. If you're not filling that hopper with more outbound prospecting, cold calling, cold canvassing, referral generation, then eventually that sale that you think may go through may not. And then you're left with the same problem we're all in, is what am I going to do with my time? I don't have anybody to talk to. So be proactive, consistent, and most importantly, on auto drive with your lead investments and time spent generating new prospects. So that's the first thing that I would say everybody here needs to make sure that they work on and fix to ensure that they have a consistent flow of leads and people to talk to. Okay. So number two, this is also a big problem. And I think this stems from a mindset issue. It's when agents, the problem being here with lead management is when agents only buy the minimum number of leads. So let me explain a little bit about what that means, the minimum number of leads, and then explain it in kind of a mindset way of how you need to shift how you think about your leads. So one of the things we teach, and a lot of organizations will teach, is that you can do a reverse engineering of your numbers, your activity and lead numbers, to find out what your projected presentation, sales, and close rates will be. For example, if you buy 20 direct mail leads a week, if you're a good agent, not great, not bad, you should sit down with 10 of those people and probably close 4 or 5 deals conservatively. So for every 20 direct mail leads, you should close 4 or 5 leads. So what are we trying to say here? Well, if I buy 20 leads every week, I'll close 4 or 5 sales. That's true over the long haul. But in between, week to week, maybe not quarter to quarter, you're going to have some weeks where it's great. You're going to have some weeks where it's bad. And my point is that one of the best ways to smooth over the 100% certainty that you as a newer agent, even more experienced agents go through the same thing. The number one way to smooth over the troughs, the rough spots where you're working and nobody's buying, is to make sure that you have more leads than you need. You want above the minimum. So this speaks to, from this mindset thing I talked about, you need to have an abundance mindset. Have you guys heard of that? Like the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. Scarcity meaning, everybody's broke, nobody wants to buy. This is a a failed business model, final expense sucks, whatever, right? Whereas the abundance model is, man, there's more people than I know what to deal with. I can't stay ahead of things. There's so much money to be made, right? You want to cultivate yourself to believe, and you have to believe this, not to say it, that there's an abundance mindset, that you need to have an abundance mindset. And part of that cultivation is taking steps intentionally, that word intentionally, to put yourself in a state where you're going to just be abundantly overwhelmed, right? In other words, it's one thing to say, oh, abundance mindset, abundance mindset. It's another thing to say, man, I've got like 40 leads. I'm not even halfway through them. It's Friday already. I'm so stressed out because there's so many prospects to see. I can't stay in front of them. They're getting a little bit older in a sense of how long the lead's been sitting there without being talked to. But I closed 10 deals this week. I made $5,000, $7,000 in commissions. Now is that a good problem to have or a bad problem? So I like thinking about it like you want in your business good problems to have, right? And when you have an abundance mindset and you, again, key point here, buy more leads than you necessarily need, you're creating an abundance situation. And yes, you're going to have the problems of not being able to catch up with everybody, to be behind to a certain extent, to feel overwhelmed, but you're probably going to close a lot more business too, because you have that much more opportunity to deal with. So that would be an example of a good problem, right? So what's a bad problem to have? Well, bad problem to have is when you're in the scarcity mindset. When you're thinking, well, I don't know, maybe I'll try to get 4 sales out of 15 direct mail leads instead of 20, or it doesn't matter the type of leads, but you get the point. You undercut the potential of what you could get, and you go even below the minimum. And then you find out you have a really bad week, nobody buys, and then that starts to affect you and reinforce this scarcity mindset, thinking that there's nobody that's buying out there. They're all deadbeats, they're all broke, blah, 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 blah. So you don't want to go that route, because that is the proverbial circling the bull, where you will be flushed out of the business because you ain't making money. And if you ain't making money in this business, I mean, how are you going to buy more leads and support your family, right? You're just not going to do it. So what's the point here? The point is, don't just do the minimum when it comes to buying leads on a recurring basis. Buy 20% more than you need. Start there, 20, 25%. If I want 15, so I'll give you a couple examples. My goal for my people at the Ford Insurance Group is 15 completed appointments a week. So many of the problems agents have in this business are just gone, mitigated, wiped away when an agent consistently does 15 appointments every single week. Face-to-face, telesales closer to 20. If they're doing 15 appointments a week for direct mail, they need to have about 30 direct mail leads a week, closer to 40, maybe 50 Facebook leads a week at a minimum. But what did we just talk about? We don't want to do the minimum. We want to do more. So in this case, if I'm buying 30, if I know 30 is what I need to do 15, I'd say just do 40. If I know 40 or 50 is what I need to do 15 appointments, 40 or 50 Facebook leads, 60, maybe 65, right? Am I going to work all those leads? Maybe not, but I'll eventually get to them. And in case, let's say all the leads are terrible and nobody wants to buy or set or see me, there's likely, with the added increase in volume I'm getting every week, opportunity there if for some reason leads were just not coming in as well and as high quality as they usually be. And then the other factor is too, if for some reason the response rates to get those leads are lower, it takes longer to turn around the leads, or you have a bad week with direct mail where you expected 40, but you only got 25, you still probably have a pile or an inventory to work on. So again, if our goal is to write business consistently and to make the most money out of this business, you have to not just get the right type of lead. You can't just make sure that you're buying on a consistent basis. You have to, in my opinion, buy more than you need. You need to position yourself intentionally in a position of abundance so that you only have good problems, not the bad ones. You have too many people to talk to and still write a lot of business, as opposed to too few people to talk to and you don't write any business. There's two problems you can have. Which one do you want? I vote for too many people to see. Okay, so situation number 3. Again, this is a problem that it becomes more relevant, I think, with time in the business, maybe on an intermediate level. But this is something that I learned from a book called, from an author, Dan Kennedy, a big time marketing guru guy. If you were reading in the aughts and the 2000 teens, lots of books there, very good, lots of good information there. One of the things he said to me, or not said to me, but through his book that I read, that really stuck with me in business, one is the loneliest number. One of anything is bad. Because if that one thing is what's driving your revenue or is running your business perfectly, one person, one agent, one lead system, and then the thing goes lame, what are you going to do? Right? So I've taken this concept seriously. For example, when I hire people and train them, I try to cross-train them on multiple skills. So if one has to take time off or quits immediately, then somebody else is behind them to fill in the gaps while we look for somebody else. When I was working final expense selling face-to-face, I had 2 appointment setters because if one, slacked and I had to take him or her out back and proverbially shoot him, get rid of him, I had one that I could fill in the gaps because having appointments preset was pretty important for my business model. And why is this important to you? Because when we look at lead management, one type of lead in many cases is okay scaled up, but you want to have contacts with other vendors that offer similar leads and maybe even other types of leads that you're familiar with. So for example, sometimes direct mail, I'm trying to think of a time in my career where this happened. I know it's happened for others where you buy one kind of lead or from a vendor, things are going great. And then all of a sudden, let's say this is what happened. This is a good example. Facebook shuts down the vendor's account. This has happened with a lot of people who self-generate leads or with vendors themselves. They're taking orders for leads. And then all of a sudden, because Facebook's on a power trip, they pull the account down. And there's nothing that you as the buyer can do. You just have to sit there and wait. And if you only have one vendor you use, that's okay, and that vendor goes away, what are you going to do? You're now in a position where you have to experiment with other vendors, which may or may not have good quality leads. Whereas what I think a better strategy to do from a management standpoint is certainly have your primary vendor that you like and appreciate, that does well, that has high intent leads, et cetera. But make sure every once in a while, once you're scaled up and you're up and running, that you try a couple other vendors in addition to your main thing. I wouldn't say shut off your main thing to try some new leads, but I would every once in a while take a taste of what the other vendors have to offer, because there could come a situation where you run into your primary vendor temporarily not being able to drop mail or generate Facebook leads or whatever it is. So make sure you've got a backup contingency plan so that if something goes awry, that you can pivot a little less stressfully and use another vendor while the other one gets back up on its feet and is running up and going. Okay. And the last point here, when it comes to lead management and doing it successful, is you want to avoid being that agent that falls victim to the new shiny object lead system. This is something that happens to a lot of you guys out there that are newer, and those of you who are opportunists, like the half glass full types. Most of us are. You really have to be on some level in this business. But on the flip side, you have to understand there are lots of businesses out to take your money. And your money is a finite thing, at least what you operate with, especially as you get started. And you want to make sure that you judiciously invest that. So the biggest problem and challenge you're going to run into is when vendors say they've got the newest lead that is so incredible, everybody's buying, the greatest thing since sliced bread. I could close these people with my, hands tied behind my back stuff, right? Be careful of going outside of the vetted, tried and true lead systems that your community of agents you work with and your IMO or agency works, and be careful of being the guinea pig for an unvetted, untested lead system. Again, of course, I teach this, but like many parents, it's do as I say, not as I do, right? I've been the guy that's pretty much tried every kind of lead system. And more often than not, I can tell you most of them fail. I've tried to come up with my own lead systems, barely broke even on that one. I've tried all sorts of different variations. Some of them work for a short time. Other of them fail really quickly, or they're inconsistent in delivering leads. And the funny thing is, after being in this business since 2011, and I can only speak on the final expense side, I recommend what still works, what worked for me and what still works, which is direct mail leads. And probably the safest second bet are going to be some Facebook variation, whether you buy them from a trusted vendor or you self-generate them yourself. Everything else has its ups and downs. Live transfers can be great, but many times they're illegally generated and you're the target for lawfare from these litigants. They're professional litigants, ambulance chasers, and will allege you of DNC, do not call violations that you did nothing to cause. It was the vendor that was, in Pakistan that generated them, but they can't be sued. So you're the target. Or they're TV leads that are great, but very expensive, inconsistent in delivery, and are very high investment cost, and so on and so forth. So you really want to stick in your lane with what has been proven to work and not deviate from it. And be able to say no to these vendors. Take precious resources, your seed capital, your bankroll, and put it into a lead system to where, I'm doing something that's unproven and untested. That is a great way to fail. And I did that. And I speak from personal experience. When it's 2012, I was struggling. I concocted my own lead. And I made a few sales, but for the price that I paid to drop the mail, if I invested the same amount in regular, boring old direct mail leads that we still use today, I would have made triple my investment, at least. And that in part contributed to me ultimately failing out of the business my first go around through. Luckily came back, of course, and all that. But a lot of this stuff comes from firsthand experience of what to avoid, what not to do. And part of that is following the footsteps of people who have already proven what has already worked. This is a boring business. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's temptations to do it, and people will ask you to give your money to them to show you the new thing that probably doesn't work. This is what I would recommend to everybody, no matter what it is that you're selling, when it comes to managing your prospecting and leads. Number one, always consistently be generating new leads or generating new prospects. Even when you're busy with sales, even when you think you got a huge elephant that you're about to close, you got some big deal coming in, don't let that get in the way of your fundamental requirement to stay active and building and generating or buying leads. So always be buying leads, preferably, especially buying on an automated every week basis, so you don't have to think about buying leads or forget about it. You always know you got leads coming in. Number two, have more prospects than you need. Practice an abundance mindset, not just by saying it, by doing it. If you need X amount of leads, add another 25% on top of that. Give yourself the opportunity to have the best problems in this business, which is too many people to see. You will figure out a way to work them all, I assure you. And still along the way, while having the best problem, close clients. Whereas if you don't, and you practice the scarcity mindset by not staying on top of things and buying minimum or less than minimum, you're going to find yourself not closing as much and struggling more often than not, probably failing. Number three, one is the loneliest number in business. Yeah, you'll probably have one really good lead vendor that you'll do 80% of your business with, but don't let that be a reason why you should not test and try out other lead vendors, preferably those who have already tested and proven their efficacy. I don't want you going out there and using an untried, untested lead vendor, but you should be associated with agents who have tried something out, who have gotten a firsthand experience from it, and kind of use that as a guide or your mentor or your agency as far as whether options are good. And make sure that you try a few of those out just to make sure that they're good for you, so that if something does happen to your lead vendor, your primary one, you've got a fallback contingency plan to keep you busy and not put you in a position of where you have dead space that you're not making money. And the last thing here is don't fall victim to the shiny object syndrome. This is a really easy thing to do nowadays. Everybody on social media is flexing. They're showing off their stuff, their cars. They're telling you how great their leads are, how everybody's wanting to buy. The truth is, who knows? You really have to ask people in the business if something is good or not to vet them. So let other people do the vetting. You work what has been proven to work. If it's a purchase lead, see what the top producers are doing. For example, in our agency, it's direct mail and Facebook leads. We know which vendors to use. So just leverage existing knowledge of what's been proven to work, and avoid, especially if your money is tight, to experiment financially with an untested, unproven lead system. Put your money back into something that actually has been proven to work by others to give yourself the best chances of success. All right. Hope you enjoyed today's training.